Hello, my love, and welcome back to the Energy Expansion podcast. I am so incredibly excited to be here with you today. And we're doing things a little different. I think I said that last week or the week before. I'm experimenting with a new way of recording these podcast episodes. So, this particular episode is designed just for you, our podcast listeners. But I have a private Facebook community where I am streaming live just for fun to have a live studio audience. So our last episode, I had done a live on my Instagram and I felt so fired up that I was like, let me repurpose this for the podcast. This is made just for you. And over here on my right-hand side, I have our DKC community. So I'm really excited to play with this. I'd shared about this for a couple of different reasons. I know that the way that I'm wired as a speaker, as a teacher, as a healer, as a thought leader, I do really, really well when there are people with me live and in real time. So I'm going to see, this is the first time I'm doing anything like this, and I've been getting the intuitive nudge. So I'm going to see, does this feel any different? And if it feels different, does it feel better? And if so, I'm going to start doing this, which means those of you who are inside of our free DKC online community, which I'll post the link in the show notes, that means y'all are going to get like a weekly. I'm not going to make any promises. No promises. If you're inside of Energy Expansion Academy, I do promise that you're going to get one live podcast recording every single month. And you know I'm good on my promises, but this could be incentive for you to join our free community. And the other thing that's a little bit different is I know exactly what I want to talk about. And it is etched in my heart. It is etched in my mind. It is etched in my spirit, which is why I have no notes. No notes. It's kind of awkward, if I'm being honest, because I don't know where to look. Normally, I'd be glancing at my notes. So I've got my podcast audio doing its audio thing on one side, and then I've got my friends over here on my other side live with me. But I'm just going to look straight ahead at the healer's prayer, which is the background of my computer, and stay like really centered in the bigness of what I want to share with you today. What's inspiring this particular podcast episode is, one, I've recently had a lot of people come up to me and ask me about what I'm going to share with you today. Number two, I have a lot of friends and colleagues who, this is going to give it away, what we're going to talk about, who are currently pregnant. And that's so exciting. All of these beautiful women out there who are so excited to transition into the next phase of their life. And in their case, that phase, that season, that era is being a mama. And number three, if you're in my world, then you know that we just recently celebrated my middle daughter. My oldest daughter turned 12 in July, and my middle daughter just celebrated her 10th birthday a few days ago. And my son River is literally, I think, tomorrow. His birthday is March 9th. And at the time of this live recording, he will be 3.5 on the dot tomorrow. And so the thing that I wanted to talk about, and this feels a little bit like out of left field, but also if you know me and as you hang out with us and you listen, it will be spot on. It's not going to feel so random. But the thing that I want to talk about is my birth story with each of them. And I'm going to share, I feel like this podcast episode, like I could literally do 3 different podcast episodes to talk about my 3 individual birth stories. And if there is a massive desire and craving for that, I'm not opposed to it, but my goal is to share little bits and pieces of the most potent, important, powerful, relevant parts of these birth stories with you. And then, of course, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. You can reach out to me in any of the places that we are connected. So I feel like I want to start off with one thing that may shock some of you because I love being a mom. I love my children so much. I am biased, but I feel like I genuinely have the coolest kids in the whole world. They're so fun, so talented, so smart, so quirky, so funny, so sweet, so thoughtful. Like all of my favorite characteristics in people, my kids have those. Right. I think that means I'm doing a good job as a mama, where I'm like, these character traits are important to me. I believe that this is what makes a good human a good human. And so like, let me do my best to impart those on my little souls, the souls that I am responsible for in this lifetime. And so being a mother is a massive part of my journey in this lifetime. And also, I did not always want to be a mom. In fact, for more than half of my life, I did not want to be a mom. It seemed unappealing to me. The thought of pregnancy, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of money, being a mom, having kids. It seemed like a lot. I wasn't sure if I'd be a good mom. Yeah, there was just a lot swirling around. And so I didn't want to be a mom for, honestly, like up until my 20s. This is so crazy for me to say. I had a client who was sitting across from me a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about motherhood, and she is having some big conversations with her significant other and friends. She does not have any children. She's not a mama yet and might not ever be one. Her man are like trying to figure that out right now. And I shared with her, like, I could totally relate. And I don't know, maybe it's unexpected advice, but I didn't say like, you must have kids. Like, it must be a yes. Your life won't be complete without them. I said, I get it. Like, you have a really fun, amazing life. And it's not that kids aren't fun and amazing, but fun and amazing changes what that looks like. And it's okay to feel the way that you're feeling. But I did ask her, I said, I really want you to explore with your partner, your husband, your significant. I want you to have this conversation, and I want you to get clear on completion. And what I mean by that is, if you, and I do this a lot with myself, where I like to think about the outcome, the finish line of whatever it might be. And in this case, this is like a really big sort of esoteric finish line. I want you to think about your final days. You're like 100 years old, maybe 200 years old, because that's how I want all of my people to live, to be really old and healthy. 200 years old. And I want you to play with the energy of like, would we be okay? Would we feel complete if we didn't have kids? And the answer might be yes. The answer might be no. So just kind of playing with that. And all of that being said, I didn't know that I wanted kids. I honestly feel I'm like avoiding saying this out loud. Please don't judge me. I feel like I will make the best out of whatever life hands me. And so what I mean by that is my kids are a huge part of my world. And I also feel like if I did not consciously choose to have kids, which I did, and now I can't imagine my life without it, if I chose something else, there's no doubt in my mind that my life would be awesome and beautiful and amazing, right? Life is what we choose to make it. I chose with my husband to go down the journey of being a mom together. Me and my husband are exploring this journey of parenthood. We've been doing it for a while. I feel like we're masters at it at this point. Jokingly, we don't have any teenagers yet. So ask me in a few years. And also, if I chose not to have kids, there's no doubt in my mind that life would be just as beautiful and wonderful. So that feels really expansive to say. I feel like people are going to judge me for saying that or think that I don't love my kids, which like literally could not be further from the truth. But I'm also sharing this because I am not of the stance that like everybody must have kids to have a life that is meaningful and fulfilling. I can't get behind that. So all of that being said, we consciously chose, like, yes, we want to be parents. And also, I'm so curious if you're a mama, if you can relate to this. With every single time I found out I was pregnant, it was like literal shock. Like I thought I was going to die of shock. And I think the part of that is the fact that my husband and I, please don't throw anything at me. Why does this conversation feel so triggering? I just know that this is such an interesting and a sensitive topic for so many people. And I really respect you and your journey and your decisions. But where I'm going to go with this is the fact that we were never like actively trying to have kids. Do you know what I mean on that? I was not like tracking my ovulation. I wasn't counting days. I wasn't taking any special medicine. Just with all three of my kids. All right, love, real quick pause because I have to tell you about something that is truly life-changing. If you've been in my world for any amount of time, then there is a 99.9% chance that you have heard me talk about Energy Expansion Academy, which is my signature group coaching program where I teach the exact tools, rituals, mindset shifts that helped me create a life that goes beyond my wildest dreams and has transformed the lives of hundreds of women that I've had the honor of serving. And for the first time ever, it is now available as a self-paced experience. That means you get to move through this powerful transformation on your own terms, in your own timing, and in full alignment with your life. This is for the woman who's ready to shift her energy, elevate her mindset, and finally become the most confident, fulfilled, and successful version of herself. Without the hustle, without the overwhelm, and without the second guessing. If you've been feeling the nudge to join us inside of EEA, then this, my love, is your sign. You'll find the link in the show notes or just DM me EEA on Instagram and I'll personally send it your way. Now, let's get back to the episode that you came for. Boom, I found out I was pregnant. There's a lot of kids who listen to this podcast, so I'm trying to be mindful of my language and how I'm talking about how babies are made. But yeah, so my oldest daughter, who just turned 12, when we found out I was pregnant with her, I was terrified, excited, I cried. The tears were like represented every emotion that you could possibly experience in the emotional range of what it is to be human, right? And when I found out that I was pregnant with her, this is so interesting. There's some like nuance to each of these. What's really funny is my best friend at the time had found out she was pregnant a few weeks before I did. It was right after the new year in 2013. And her husband had been working out of town. And so she booked her first appointment with the OB and they do the ultrasound. And so I remember like literally sitting in the room with her and there was this little, it looked like a piece of rice. Like it was like a little white dot. It was so cute, little white dot on the screen. And the doctor was pointing this out and me and my friend were so excited. We were so giddy. And I kid you not, 4 weeks went by. I was doing this diet with my mom. It's not really a diet. It's called the Whole30. If you know, you know. And my mom was losing weight. She was seeing results and I wasn't. And I was doing it to a T and I was getting really frustrated with myself. And something told me to take a pregnancy test. Again, we were not trying. This was not expected or planned per se. So I took a pregnancy test and sure enough, the pregnancy test popped up that I was pregnant and I was, feeling all the feels like I already told you. So I called that same OBGYN that my best friend did. Like, let's just do this together. How cool is that? So I go in thinking, wait until you hear this, thinking that I was going to see what looked like a piece of rice on the screen because I was just in this exact same room a couple weeks ago. Y'all, there was a fully formed baby in my womb. You could see the baby's head. You could see the torso. You could see the butt. You could see the arms, the hands, the legs, the feet, the toes. And I almost passed out. What I didn't know was that when I was at that appointment, I was 10 weeks pregnant. You guys, I was 10 weeks pregnant already, and I had no freaking idea. I just paused there for a minute. This is insane. I have so many little nuggets that I need to share here. And our live viewers are like those emojis, the shock emojis. Yes, fam. Can you imagine not knowing you're pregnant? A couple days later, you go to the doctor and there is a fully formed human in your womb. Quite shocking. Quite shocking. So I was more than 2 months into my pregnancy and my daughter was born almost a month early. So I was actually only consciously aware of my pregnancy for 7 or 8 months. How crazy is that? Now, some of y'all might be kind of jealous if you found out you were pregnant on the date of conception and then your baby was in there for a couple extra weeks. I had a really nice expedited, accelerated process. And the funny thing is, there was something really similar with my mom. Gosh, if I'm remembering the story correctly, this is insane, fam. I am remembering the story correctly because it's not terribly different from mine, but it is at the same time. So it was like right after New Year's when my mom found out that she was pregnant, and her stomach obviously was big and round and hard. Lady thought she had a tumor in her stomach. She was freaked all the way out. And come to find out, she was pregnant. She was 5 months pregnant. My mom did not know she was pregnant with me until she was 5 months in to the whole debacle. My due date was May 5th. I was supposed to be a Cinco de Mayo baby, but I was actually born. This is where the people who are close to me know who's my besties out there. I was actually born on April 5th. So I was born and exactly to the day, 1 month early. It was so funny. My family was throwing my mom a baby shower on April 5th. And right before she was getting ready to open her presents, she went into labor. Such a fun story. And so if I'm remembering the story correctly, they took the cake and the presents to the hospital and I got to be there. The baby shower ended up turning into my birthday, my day of birth. How cool is that? And so it's so crazy to me that my first pregnancy, that experience in a lot of ways, in its own flavor, mirrored my mom's experience. I was just 2 weeks away from being in my second trimester when I found out that I was pregnant. And then I think my daughter was due August 11th and she was born July 17th. So those are some little fun tidbits there. But now let's speed it up a little bit. We'll get on with the show here. It comes down to July 17th, right? I go to bed, big and pregnant. I've still got another 3 weeks of this whole pregnancy thing. And in the middle of the night, I remember feeling a little bit of discomfort. I remember waking up my husband. This was probably at 1 or 2 a.m. And I'll spare you of any of the details. If you want the details, I'll give them to you. Reach out to me. Maybe we'll have an after hours conversation or something. But I got up to go to the bathroom and my water didn't break. So there's so many different ways you can go into labor. I just thought like there was just water everywhere. I lost something known, which you want to lose it, is your mucus plug, which has something to do with the process. And so I remember being on the phone, looking around. I just like gone to go pee and was like, oh yeah, I think that's the mucus plug. And so I was laying on the couch for a little bit and kept calling the office and they were doing little cues to check and make sure it was right for us to come in. And then finally they said, yes, go ahead and come in. So me and my husband, we lived in a rural part of San Diego. And so we get in the car, we drive down. It's probably like a 25-minute drive for us. But one side note, this isn't a very important part of the story. That initial appointment at our OBGYN, I remember going in and saying, this feels so important and there's no judgment ever. I don't judge me. I don't judge you. Please don't judge me. Please don't judge you, right? Two-way street here. And I remember thinking to myself, I literally don't know why any mother, expecting mother, soon to be mother in labor would not have an epidural. Like, what kind of crazy woman in this day and age with all this medical technology, who would opt to feel the pain if you don't have to feel the pain? So I remember going in, not realizing I was almost in my second trimester, not realizing I could basically tell the gender of my baby on the first appointment because that's how far along I was. But I remember going in and saying, I don't know where you need to put it on your little piece of paper, but I need you to write down epidural. I must have an epidural. I don't care what needs to happen, how early I need to get to the hospital. So like I was very, very adamant about getting the epidural. So me and my husband are driving to the place not very far from where I live now. Shout out to Sharp Grossmont in La Mesa. And I walk in and I'm literally like, okay, where's the anesthesiologist? Like epidural, epidural, epidural. Sure enough, your girl Dani got her epidural. And looking back now, that was not a good decision. Last night I was laying next to my husband. I was like, do you want one more baby? And he was like, hell no. Hell no. And I forgot what it was. I was like, I'm about to start my period. And I'm just feeling really emotional and I feel like I want another baby. And he was freaking out about it. So where I'm going with that is, given the opportunity to have 1,000 more babies, I would say no to an epidural 1,000 times, 1,000 times, 1,000 times. Because what I didn't know then, which I should have known, like you know in your head intellectually, but like you don't realize it in your body. And there's some big themes for me around this conversation when it comes to body. And I'll tie that in just a minute. So I didn't want to feel the pain. So I didn't feel the pain. But because I didn't feel the pain, I didn't feel what was happening in my body. It was an experience. I'm so grateful. I love my daughter so much. But that birth experience, that labor and delivery experience is defined by disconnection. Complete and total disconnection from myself, my power, literally what God intended the female body to do. Should you choose to do that, your body is equipped to do that, right? And so I knew that day, as I was holding my baby, super grateful for her, but I was like, I made a mistake with getting an epidural. Before I even left the hospital, I remember thinking to myself, I don't think I uttered the words aloud, but I remember thinking to myself, when I have my next kid, because I knew we wanted more than one kid. We wanted 2 kids. 2 kids, that's it. That's all we wanted. We got more than we bargained for because God is good. We got a bonus. Get more than you ask for around here, right? Talk about miracles. That little tangent got me all fired up and all excited. So I don't think I uttered the words out loud, but I knew in my heart when we have another baby, I cannot. I want to know what that experience feels like. I want to be able to rely on my body. And so there's, again, this theme before we go into Hannah's birth story, and we'll expedite this a little bit more. But I don't love the fact that I was 10 weeks pregnant before I realized I was pregnant. With each pregnancy, I knew sooner and sooner. And I believe that's because with each pregnancy, I was more connected to myself. I was more connected to my body. I was more connected to God. I was more connected to my spirit. And so when you have another spirit, another body growing inside of yours, inside of your spirit, inside of your body, when you're really truly connected, you know that to some extent. You feel that, right? And so I just thought that that was really, really interesting. And it really sparked this journey of wanting to be more connected to myself and to God and to spirit and to my body, if I didn't already say that. So fast forward just less than 2 years. My daughters are 2 years and 2 months apart. They're 26 months apart. So fast forward a little bit and I find out that I'm pregnant with Hannah. That pregnancy was actually really hard. I think I experienced a bit of postpartum depression, but then severe anxiety. I'd never experienced anxiety, and I started having panic attacks and getting really, really, really sick. And I wasn't in a very good headspace. And sadly, when I talked to my doctor, she made me feel kind of crazy. She made me feel like there was something wrong with me for feeling that way. And I did a bunch of research on my own, and I learned that your biology and the way that your brain wires and fires changes dramatically. Like the chemicals and all the things inside of your body, you are a completely different person after giving birth. And it takes X amount of time to get to a balanced place, whatever that means. And so when you have babies back to back, it can really, I'm not saying don't do that. I love the age difference, really, of all 3 of my kids. I'm obsessed with the age differences. It really messes with your psyche and with your hormones and with your biology and with the composition of your brain and all of that stuff. And so that pregnancy, I, for the most part, loved being pregnant, like the physical experience. I'm one of those annoying people. I loved it so much. And I sometimes wish that I had a little, I could carry my babies around. I don't have to leave them anywhere. I could just have them in my tummy. I always ask River, you want to go back in mommy's tummy? Which is so silly because hopefully he doesn't want to. And I'm not teasing him too much because he can't. And he might not understand that because he's only 3.5. But I want my babies really close to me all the time. So physically, I loved being pregnant. That second pregnancy with my Hannah Banana, who just turned 10 a few days ago, that was really rough on my mental health, on my psyche, on my mind. But when I found out that I was pregnant with her, remember, so I think I was only 2 weeks. post-conception of finding out. I was much more connected to my body after just those less than 2 years from having one baby to the point of finding out I was pregnant with the next one, Hannah. And so I knew that I did not want to have an epidural. This is going to be a word for somebody. This is going to be a word for a lot of somebodies out there. I just did what I thought I was supposed to do. Like, you find out you're pregnant, so you call a doctor, right? You go to see an OBGYN. I was very programmed by Western medicine. I am not that way anymore. You don't know what you don't know. I had never heard the terms doula. I didn't know what a doula was. And I had never heard the term midwife. Maybe I had heard the term midwife, but I felt like midwives only existed in the 1500s, like Jesus's time or something, right? And when I knew I wanted to go a slightly different route, and I feel like most hospitals, actually, I can't say most because that was a long time ago. That was 13 years ago. Yes, 13 years ago-ish when I found out I was pregnant with my oldest. And so things are very different now, but I feel like they were not in support or recommending things like doulas or midwives. I think they do now, which, like, holly freaking luya. But so I decided to go on a sacred pregnancy retreat hosted by a very dear friend of mine. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And I had found out that she was a doula and she wasn't taking any new clients at the time. So she referred me to a friend of hers. And that experience was life-changing. The things that I learned, the resources, how to create a birth plan, which was amazing, how to advocate for myself, things that most hospitals and labor and delivery nurses and doctors will push for and make you think are the norm or mandatory when they're really not. So the amount of education there was really, really next level. And she knew that my ultimate goal was to not have an epidural. That was literally why I paid this woman, I think it was like close to $1,000, and it was so worth it. And I, on my own, she did not suggest this. I want to do it. It's a very Dani thing. I created a birth vision board. So I got some pregnancy magazines and all these different pictures of women being really strong and powerful and you can do it and mama's holding babies and all these beautiful things. So I made this vision board and I was doing these meditations and I was getting really creative with my birth plan and asking lots of questions. But deep down, I have to tell you, deep down, I didn't actually think that I could do it. What do I mean by that? I thought that I was going to get to the hospital and I kept saying, like, what if I chicken out? What if the pain is so bad and so severe that I tap out and I say, give me the epidural? Which, here's the thing. If that would have happened, who freaking cares? Who freaking cares? You gotta do you. You gotta do what's best for you. But I really felt like if I did that, this is not about anyone else or what I think about other people's choices. And really, like, I mean this with love. I don't care about other people's choices. I care that you do what's right for you. I care that you know what your options are. I care that you feel empowered and educated. Those are things I care about. And, like, once you feel empowered and educated and you feel like you got what you need, then mama, you got it. I've got you. You got this. I've got you. Like, I've got your back, whatever you choose, whatever feels right for you and your family. But again, I kept feeling really scared that I was going to chicken out. And the interesting thing is, I think God heard that. And God, unbeknownst to me, was not going to let me chicken out. If you know this story, you're probably chuckling to yourself because you're like, oh, yes. Yeah, no, God was not going to let you chicken out. And so what's really interesting is both of my daughters they have the same gestational birthday. What does that mean? That means they were in my body for the exact same amount of time. So something that you should know is that pregnancy is considered to be like the experience of a full term. So full term is considered 37 weeks. Due dates are calculated based on a 40-week, 40. So they trick you when they say it's 9 months because it's actually a little longer than that. So 40 weeks is like the end of the journey. Some babies are in there a little bit longer, as long as it's safe for them to do so. Some babies come a little bit earlier. So both of my daughters were born at 35 weeks and 6 days. 1 day shy of 36 weeks. And so both of my babies were considered preterm, but they were super duper healthy. So I think that's so interesting that for both of my daughters, my body had the exact same eviction notice. They were born the exact same gestational day. They spent the exact same amount of time in my body. Isn't that crazy? I didn't know that until we made it to the hospital and the doctor had the paperwork and she was like, this is nuts. I got to share this with you. So she did. But before we made it to the hospital, there's a whole chain of events that went down. So this is the most incredible story I've ever told. It is the most incredible thing that's ever happened to me. And that's saying a lot because there's a lot of incredible things that have happened to me. I want to claim that. So it was the Friday of Labor Day with my second daughter. We were still living in that little rural town in San Diego. And we were pretty far from any hospital. And again, it was Friday, and not just Friday, but Friday evening on Labor Day weekend, right around 5 o'clock. And I remember just before 5. So my daughter was born at 5:40. So it was like later in the evening, later in the afternoon. God is so good how all of this went down. We're still several weeks out from my due date, from her needing to come, from her being born. My husband that day, like later that night, he was going to leave on a fishing trip with his buddies. And as a result of that, I had some family. My grandma, you've probably heard me talk about her before, my Granny Goose and her sister, my Auntie Kathy, who I love so much, they were going to drive down from LA, where my Auntie Kathy lives, Agora Hills, if you know the area, down to the little rural San Diego County town that we lived in. So my husband was going to leave, they were going to come, and we had the intention of finishing the nursery. So it's the afternoon now. I have a stomach ache, like a really bad stomach ache. Admittedly, I'd eaten Carl's Jr. that day, and I think that was the first time in my life I had ever eaten Carl's Jr. And so I thought I just like had an upset stomach from like a bad burger or something like that. And so my husband had come home early from work. He was laying down in the bed, getting a little bit of sleep before he was going to drive through the night to go fishing with his buddies. His friends were getting ready to come over as well. And I went to lay down next to him just because I was feeling really sick. And again, the timing was impeccable because, fam, I had a 2-year-old daughter at the time. I was toting her around with me all day. We had gone to Babies R Us. Does Babies R Us still exist? That store was amazing. Bye Bye Baby. All of these stores, are these things anymore? Or they might have disappeared because of online retailers, but I loved going into a Babies R Us and a Bye Bye Baby. So we had gone to get things for the nursery, run errands, of course, got the Carl's Jr. And so my grandma and my aunt had walked in the door and I was like, hey, can you take Haley, my older daughter? I said, I'm really not feeling good. I'm going to go lay down. They're like, yeah, of course. So I went to lay down and warning, hypnobirthing works. Hypnobirthing meditations are the real freaking deal. So much so, I say this jokingly, but also seriously, they can be a little dangerous, okay? I have heard that hypnobirthing meditations and techniques have led to a lot of unplanned home births. Spoiler alert, this was an unplanned home birth. So what I mean by that is I go upstairs and I pop in my headphones and I listen to the same hypnobirthing meditation that I'd been listening to every single day for months. From what I understand, the way that hypnobirthing works is it disconnects the pain receptors in your brain from the actual pain you're experiencing in your body. So it makes your body think that you're not in as much pain as you actually are. And so what I thought was a little tummy ache from a Carl's Jr. cheeseburger was actually me in full-blown labor. Full-blown labor. And I did not know until it was too late. It all turns out okay. But it was too late. So I'm like texting my doula, like, what's going on? And she was like, yeah, you need to get to the hospital right now. We're tracking my contractions. She's having me time them. And they're like 30 seconds apart or something like that. And remember, Friday night, Labor Day weekend, we're about 45 minutes away from a hospital. So I am pushing my husband. I'm like, babe, because he's laying next to me. I'm like, wake up, get up right now. I'm in labor. And I'm pretty sure he was like, are you sure? Because I don't want to miss this fishing trip. And I'm like, get my suitcase in the car. right now. Get in the car right now. So he jumps out of bed, zips up my suitcase that's by our bedroom door. He's like flying down the stairs. And we have this really insane driveway, this like very steep driveway. And my aunt's car, because they didn't know we were going to go into labor, my aunt's car is blocking my car. So he puts the suitcase in our car. He grabs her keys. I'm barreling down the stairs. I'm moaning in pain. And my daughter's crying. My grandma grabs her. I'm so grateful that they're there. And I go to open the garage door to get into our car. And God literally says to me so loud, do not get in that car. Do not get in that car. So I'm like, okay, I did not want to have my baby in a car. And so the way that our house was set up is like this very small space. Our laundry room had one door that went out to the garage. And then right next to me was a door that went into a small half bath, like just a toilet and a sink. So I, ever so politely, as not to disturb anybody, I go into the bathroom. I close the door behind me. I had to pull down my pants because that's where a baby comes out of. So I wiggle down my pregnancy shorts and spread them wide. I'm standing up as this is happening. And I remember my doula. This is so powerful, fam. I remember my doula saying that our throat, the actual muscles in our throat and the energy of our throat is directly connected to that of our cervix. And so what a lot of women do is because of pain, they'll scream or they'll shout or they'll kind of holler up and out, and it actually closes. It contracts the throat, which then contracts the cervix. So I remember her training me, and she said, it's really important that if you need to make, like you should use noise and sound, but when you do that, you want it to be down into your body. Like this it was like so primal. And I remember that in that instant. So I make this really loud noise. Again, the only way I can describe it is primal. I don't even think I can recreate it here with you. And if I did, it would probably send chills down your spine. So I make this noise, and I kid you not, fam, I look down. My hands are down between my upper thighs. I look down, and I'm literally holding her head. That one sound, that one breath with intention had her noggin come out. I didn't know what to do. You guys, I remember being terrified, and this all happened so quickly, but it felt like a lifetime in the moment. I was like, do I pull? I was talking to God. God was right there with me. God was talking right back to me. I remember shaking and crying and being like, I wish she would go back in because I didn't know what to do. But I did. I did know what to do. God said, do it again. What you just did, do it one more time. So I did. For this second time, only took 2 times, 2 breaths, 2 primal screams in growls. It wasn't a scream, it was a growl. It was a roar. I roared down into my body. And I kid you not, she came sliding out. This could have been so bad. This could have been so dangerous. I don't like to think about it because it was literally perfect. And because I was holding on to her head as she came out, she like glided into my arms, and in one foul swoop, one motion, I brought her up to my chest. I was holding her on my chest, and I just fell to the ground, like gripping her. And it was very uncomfortable because of the umbilical cord. So I had to be like hunched over as I was holding her. And I remember being so scared because she's covered, in blood and in fluids, and she looked kind of strange and she wasn't crying. And so I thought there was something wrong. And I am like crying, but also feeling really powerful and also feeling confused. And I just kept saying, it's okay. Mommy's here. It's okay. You're going to be okay. Mommy's here. Mommy's here. Now, mind you, no one else in the house, the 3 other adults, my granny goose, my Aunt Kathy, my husband who was outside, and my little daughter, nobody knew what had happened. And so luckily, because of one of those primal growls, my husband freaked out. And so when he was outside, he actually knew. God is so good. He knew to call 911. So he opens earmuffs for the little ones really quickly. I got to say it the way he said it. He opens the bathroom door where he knew I was, and he looks down and he says, "Oh shit, she's holding the baby." That was when he knew that I had single-handedly, with my own two hands, no one else in the room, delivered our second child. I just let that land for a second. I have to just, that moment changed my entire life. That moment changed my self-identity. That moment did something to amplify and expand my confidence in realizing just how freaking strong and powerful I am. And I want to share some of that energy with you, because you don't have to have an experience like that to have an incredibly elevated self-image, to be able to really hold yourself and know the greatness that you are and what you're capable of. And so it felt so fast, but literally, I mean, it felt like within minutes. So there wasn't a hospital nearby, but luckily there were like firefighters right down the street from our house. And so that was who got called to come get us. And so within I think it was like 3 to 5 minutes. They were so fast. I was on a stretcher holding my baby. They were loading me up and we drove our way to the hospital, and they were like, "Go ahead and feed her." And I was like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did this not that long ago." So I pulled down my shirt, popped my baby on my boob. I'm feeding her, feeling like a pro. And we get to the hospital and the doctor had my birth plan, the birth plan that I had printed out. And we were laughing about this whole plan that I had created and how what actually happened couldn't have been any further, like from what my plan was. And you guys have probably heard me say this. I will take God's plan. I will take God's plan over my plan any day, because God's plan is always exponentially better than anything that I could or you could or we could dream up. And the icing on the cake, I almost forgot to share this part. I have a video. I need to go find this video. So remember, my grandma and my aunt were there to help with the nursery. You can't make this up. Can't make this up. What I didn't know, because it was a surprise, was that my mom and my cousin were flying in that afternoon to come to our house to surprise me. So I pull up to the hospital. Guys, my mom lives 8 hours away from me currently now, which makes me so sad. And at the time, she was living an 8-hour drive away from me, like not easy to get to me. Tell me how they open up the door to the vehicle, like the EMT truck or whatever it is. They pull me out. And I was so strong. I was so stoic. I've got this, and I've got my baby, and we're good. I've got my husband. My mom comes running up as I'm being wheeled, and I lose my mind. My mommy is here. My mommy's going to make me feel better. Like my mom, oh my gosh, I like lose it. So I mean, she had just gotten off of a plane, unbeknownst to me, down the street from me, like 30 minutes prior. And she gets this call that Dani is in labor. Dani has had the baby. Dani has delivered the baby with her own two hands. And there are EMTs driving her to the hospital. Get there right now. The timing of that, I need to find that video and share that with you. That was my second birth story, for those of you who are curious. And then I feel like I'll go a little bit faster for the sake of time. And that was like the big one with Rivers. And so it was so funny because when I found out I was pregnant with River, oh, there's a whole thing to that too, huh? We were done having kids, we thought. And fun fact, we were able to do the math. And River was conceived on our 10th wedding anniversary. We were able to look at the calendar and pinpoint that. And so we thought we were done having kids. And God was like, I am so proud of you for being married for 10 years. I've got a little gift for you. So that's how that happened. When I found out I was pregnant with River, it was quite shocking. It was a little bit traumatizing. Life had just gotten way easier. My two daughters were becoming more self-sufficient. My business, everything was just on this exponential uptick. And I was like, yes, it's finally my time. It's finally my time to focus more on me and more on these projects and da-da-da-da-da-da. You're pregnant, Dani. And I remember being like, God, why? What are you doing? I was such a brat about it. I called my husband on the day I found out and I was like, listen, I've got something to tell you. And I know I should do it in a nice and cute way, but I can't keep this to myself anymore. And this is terrible, blah, 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 blah. Gosh, I don't think I've ever shared any of these things, but it's vulnerable and it's real. So I'm going to share it with you. And when I told him that I was pregnant, he was like, don't cry. He said something I've never heard him say in those 10 years that we were married at the time. And I've never heard him say since. I'm like the relentless optimist with the rose-colored glasses, and he's like the realist, right? Like just real, get down to it, not super emotional. We're total opposites, and it's perfect for us. But he goes, babe, this is going to be wonderful. And through my tears, I'm like sniffling, wiping my boogers away. And I said, you think so? You think it's going to be wonderful? And he goes, yeah. And he was right. I am having a wonderful time. I don't think he's always having a wonderful time, but he was right. It is wonderful. And I called my mom to tell her. And I was like, Mom, what am I going to do? This is so hard. I can't do this. Da, 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 da. And she goes, shut up. Like, what? She was like, shut up. She goes, that baby's not even your baby. She was like, that baby belongs to your whole family. You think you're going to be able to hold that baby when your daughters are going to want to hold that baby? That baby belongs to your daughters. And I was like, oh, yeah, because of the age difference. The age gap was my youngest was 6 and my oldest was 8. And there was nothing more that they wanted than to like play with baby dolls. And I was about to give them an actual baby. My oldest daughter to this day feels like she is his second mom. She always says, Mom, when he was born, the first thing he did was he opened his eyes and he looked at you and then he looked at me. So he thinks I'm his mom too. It's like the cutest thing. The autonomy and the care and the responsibility that they take when it comes to like helping with their baby brother, it is the best. Having a toddler is no joke. A 3-year-old is not easy. 3.5-year-old. I once heard someone say that having children feels like an assault on the nervous system. And I was like, yeah, that's probably one of the most accurate descriptions of having a kid that I have ever heard. But having 2 older sisters and some extra hands, I've got 4 extra hands in the house. I highly recommend a nice, spacious age gap, especially if you've got some older helpers. I think it helps that they're girls, but maybe if they were boys, they'd be just as helpful. I don't know. So I was not thrilled when I found out that I was pregnant with my 3rd kid. Now I want more babies. I don't know if that's true, but like, I love it. It's great. It's the best thing in the whole wide world. Because I had had an unplanned at-home birth, I was like, I think I can have a planned at-home birth. And so the rest is sort of history. I felt really good. I felt really empowered. I went a step above a doula and I found an amazing, oh my gosh, I've got to tag them. Hummingbird, I believe is what it's called. Why am I blanking on it? Morgan Hummingbird Midwifery out of the Bay Area. If you're in the Bay Area and she's still operating and practicing, I cannot recommend her enough. Oh my gosh, I want to cry when I think about her and her team. I think I went to like 2 hospital visits, maybe only 1. The ultrasounds we just went to like an ultrasound place. So I went completely, like from my first birth to my 3rd one, we forged an entirely new kind of path. And it was amazing. And I'm so grateful. And it was so incredible getting to have my son in the comfort of my home, the comfort of my bathtub. I let my girls decide if they wanted to be in the room. They were there for a big part of the labor. My younger one was there when he was actually being delivered. The older one was getting a little freaked out. And so she left the room and then obviously came back because he opened his eyes and there she was. Just like, it was such an incredible experience from start to finish, like getting over the emotions of finding out I was pregnant. But once I got over those emotions, the whole pregnancy experience was amazing. I loved it. The labor and delivery, aside from it being terribly, tragically painful, thinking I was going to die, not literally, but like there's what happens physically in the psyche in those final stages. There's something known as transition. And it's like, you feel like there's no way you could do this. You can't. Like, I forgot some of what I was saying, but it was like, I can't. This baby is never going to come out. And then like, that's right when the baby comes out. It was just so incredible to be able to walk from my master bathroom into my bedroom and lay down and hold my baby and not be poked and prodded. And oh my gosh, I'm so grateful. I think that God blessed us with this boy for so many different reasons. And one of them is because I was supposed to have that experience. The progression of each of these birth stories, like you can see the growth and the trust and the surrender and the connection and the magic grow and amplify and expand with every single one of them. And I'm so, so, so grateful. And so with that said, I want to wrap up here. But in closing, I had a handful of people recently come up to me and ask me about my birth experiences. And then people who know me will be like, oh my gosh, did Dani ever tell you how she delivered her second child, like by herself with her own two hands? And that same child, that same story, we got to celebrate the 10th anniversary of me meeting a brand new version of myself that I didn't know existed just a couple of days ago. So this energy of birth stories and birthdays has been top of mind and top of heart for me. And because so many questions have come up around this recently, and finding out that a lot of women that I love, people in my family and friends and colleagues, are pregnant, I thought that the timing of this was quite perfect. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about any of this, about anything ever, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I don't know if you can tell, but this is one of my favorite conversations to have, like ever, 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 ever. And so I'm so here for it. And without further ado, I love you tons. If you have pregnant people in your life, share this episode with them. And we will see you again next week.